When talking about education and learning, we have to talk about struggle. I think that this is a very important aspect of working with an emancipatory perspective in relation to education and production of knowledge. People, especially within the art scene, tend to forget that. When we established the Copenhagen Free University in 2001, struggle was the perspective. It wasn't just another art project. We found that we were living in a situation where action was urgent. The so-called knowledge economy was becoming the norm, changing not only the established universities and other educational institutions, but it was changing society as such. It is almost 10 years ago by now, but to those of you who don't know about the Copenhagen Free University, the CFU was a self-organized institution situated within the framework of our apartment in Copenhagen. Before we opened the Free University, we had for a while been discussing the change in capitalist production that has taken place with globalization, especially the impact on our own lives in the Western world. Here, knowledge and human imagination was increasingly becoming at the frontier of capitalist expansion, and this had turned the educational sector into a contested source of value. There was money to be earned. With globalization and the opening up of movement of goods and capital, there was also an opening up of a global market of knowledge. We were in many ways children of the anti-globalization movement of the late 1990s, but never felt at ease with the summit hopping of the globalized protest, although it was at that time very successful. It was our intention and hope to somehow connect the anti-capitalist struggle to our everyday, to our material life. And sometimes the solution lies just in front of you. When production has turned immaterial, then there are not any big factories to occupy, there's no heavy machinery to take over. The main machinery had been, on a very basic level, become the production of subjectivity. So to take over production was a discursive act, a speech act. So we said, this is a university, and by this simple speech act, we established the Copenhagen Free University in our messy apartment on the 4th floor in the North District of Copenhagen, and the university was reality. Since we didn't actually want to teach anyone anything, our aim was to learn as a collective process, and the main focus became research, a kind of collective socialized process where everyone was contributing what they could in terms of time and competence. When starting a new branch of research, we made open calls asking people to contribute and join the process of the project. We organized talks, film screenings, and various debates in our flat, and communities slowly built up in relation to the specific topic of research we were focusing on. Somehow accepting that knowledge is a social relation rather than something someone possesses. Our project turned into a number of research communities that slowly was building a discourse, a sphere of knowledge around a specific topic. I don't want to start telling about the specific projects that we were engaged in, but the headlines were art and economy, radical history, media activism, feminist organizations, and refugee subjectivity. And we didn't want to instrumentalize the knowledge produced. As we didn't want to instrumentalize the knowledge produced, we rarely produced and wrote papers and reports, but thought that the people involved could utilize and disperse the collective knowledge produced within their own networks as they felt appropriate. We wanted to make the knowledge social and free. When I started, I said, I see all these activities as struggles and not as playful and funny alternative art projects. This is because I can't see it in any other way. Capital is constantly teaching us how to behave, how to live our lives. And if we don't find that, the school of capital will shape our social relations and our innermost emotions. And capital is already teaching us to compete, teaching us to be possessive with our ideas and our talents, teaching us to become highly skilled only in areas where there is a market, and only in areas that are useful to the unstoppable appetite of capital itself. Perhaps it's already too late, and we have all become good students in capital school of alienation. Sometimes I have my doubts. Capital is persistently teaching us in the universities, in the schools, in the everyday. Capitalism has got its own pedagogy, and here it is not just a matter of being critical and making fancy art shows about alternative education. It's a matter of coming to terms with the fact that we don't want to learn capitalism. And that's why it is a struggle. It is a struggle between learning to be submissive to capital and learning to be free. And I'm sorry to say that this struggle has had a hard time with the art scene in recent years, with big projects about self-organized education and loads of books and seminars about non-aligned universities run by academics and curators who want to join the educational turn in art, as it's been called. This has, in my view, been a depoliticizing turn, taking the struggle out of the equation and turning it into a nice and interesting theme for high-profile corporate art and educational institutions. Parallel to this educational turn to the right, as I will call it, there was actually been an unfolding and educational turn to the streets, with students all over the world starting to protest and resist the pedagogy of capital that is destroying the autonomy and access to education. With the occupations of the universities in Vienna, Berkeley, and in hundreds of other places around the globe last year, the protests appear to gather even more momentum this year. Most recently with massive protests this week in California and across Europe. So if you really are interested in the emancipatory potential of education, we have to support the students right now. I forgot to tell you that we actually shut down the Copenhagen Free University in 2007 with the statement, "We have won." As a natural consequence of our attempt to take power, we wanted to show that power can as easily be destroyed. So we decided to abolish the name, but we are carrying on similar research and sharing our knowledge in the dark, in our community, among our friends, between ourselves. Thank you, and all power to the protesting students.